Hello everybody, this is a case of macular corneal dystrophy which is considered one of the very challenging cases to complete DALK. We start with the usual steps of marking the corneal center. Partial trephination is then done. Now I am introducing the insulin syringe to inject air in the stroma aiming for a big bubble. In macular corneal dystrophy there is usual resistance and difficulty in air dissection to the stroma. It is to be noted also that in macular corneal dystrophy it is very common to have a type 2 bubble or a mixed bubble or a failed big bubble. After multiple air injections, stromal whitening occurred with no bubble formation. So now I am marking the trephination groove to ensure proper cutting of the stroma during scissoring. This is followed by superficial keratectomy and re-injection of air at a deeper plane in another trial to get a big bubble. Now I am dissecting another layer of the stroma, realizing that I will not have a big bubble and will continue the case by manual dissection. After finishing dissection of this layer, wetting of the stroma is done to inspect the bed. Inspection of the bed revealed the presence of a small peripheral type 2 bubble. Opening of the roof of this bubble will lead to bare Descemet membrane which is fragile and can burst easily. It is desirable in eyes with type 2 bubble to continue layer by layer dissection and bearing Descemet membrane in the central area only if needed. A paracentesis is then done, followed by opening on one of the small microbubbles and introducing a spatula to dissect more stroma. Dissection in the area of the type 2 bubble should be the last part to avoid access to bare Descemet membrane. Cutting the dissected stroma is then done after dividing it into 4 or 5 quadrants. Now the bed consists of a very thin layer of stroma, small peripheral type 2 bubble and Descemet membrane. Since this is a case of macular corneal dystrophy and the stroma has glycosaminoglycan deposits, it is desirable to remove the whole stroma up to Descemet membrane to have a clear visual access. Air is then injected into the anterior chamber to act as a landmark for the bubble behavior. A drop of viscoelastic is then placed over the bubble, followed by a gentle opening on the roof of the bubble and injection of viscoelastic inside the collapsed bubble to open the plane between the stroma and Descemet membrane. It is evident now that while we are injecting viscoelastic in the bubble, the AC bubbles are moved to the periphery, indicating that the type 2 bubble now is full of viscoelastic and not air. Bearing of the central part of Descemet membrane is done by careful removal of the stroma. It is to be noted that the stroma should be grasped by a fine-toothed forceps and pulled gently away from Descemet membrane. The scissors should cut the stroma without any contact or pressure over Descemet membrane. Cutting should also be done in small snips to avoid rupture of the fragile Descemet membrane. Irrigation of viscoelastic is then done carefully, avoiding direct irrigation of the central bare Descemet membrane. And finally, placing a graft after removing Descemet membrane and suturing it with the usual suturing technique. Thank you for watching the video.